And we are live. Welcome to the Profit Zone, where we discuss building wealth one property at a time. I am Don Walker, alongside with my co-host Jay Carey. And I'm just happy to be here, man. We are in Houston, Texas today. H-Town, you know what I'm saying? And I'm happy to be here. On the Profit Zone, we discuss multiple topics, right? Commercial real estate, multifamily real estate, industrial, retail. We've also spoken about residential and distressed properties, right? But with that being said, today we have a special segment and a special guest. We're going to be talking about real estate development. And today we have James Carey in the house, right? JC So Successful, right? A Fortune 150 sales leader, a real estate developer, and a managing member of CGS Developers, man. So welcome to the Profit Zone, James. How you doing, man?
I'm great. First of all, let me pay some homage to you, Don. Pay some homage to you, Jay Carey. Honored to be here, right? Love what you brothers are doing.
Respect.
With the Profit Zone. Beautiful platform. I'm watching from afar. As we get into the questions, one of the things you guys gonna hear, some of my journey is built off of seeing what y'all was doing.
I love it.
I love it
right
right there.
And so, yeah, thanks for having me. Happy to be here.
Awesome. Man, we happy to have you on the platform because, obviously we talk about, multifamily real estate and, short-term rentals and, flipping and just really getting into single family, residential real estate, right? But just having you here and sharing your perspective and your journey on, actually how you literally, obviously sought out land and built properties from the ground up. That's huge. That's huge, man. So, I really just want to jump in and, tell us about like some of your experience. How did you, really get started in real estate? But, what was that determining factor and what was that motivation that actually gave you, really just, the confidence to just jump right into the development side, man?
Yeah. So I'll start from the beginning. After finishing from school from the illustrious Clark Atlanta University, which we all are alumni of, I went straight into corporate America. And that's where my journey was. I've been in corporate America the last 14 years. It's been a good ride. Lived all over the country, moved city to city. Now, with being in corporate America, Jay Carey, there's certain skills you're picking up along the way. Right?
Absolutely.
You're picking up how to build relationships, picking up how to negotiate, owning in on a lot of the financial acumen and financial skills. And then some people, we just born with the entrepreneur spirit.
Absolutely.
So finally, in 2020, right in the midst of the pandemic, I was able to take some of that entrepreneurial spirit to the next level. And the way that came about, I was in the stock market heavy during the pandemic, like a lot of people.
Okay.
I'm sure you guys might have been part of some text message chat groups where it was,
Absolutely.
hey, put your money here today. What is this coin gonna do tomorrow?
Right.
I remember that.
You guys remember that?
Are we talking about GameStop or something?
My God, it was a lot of different stocks. And it was a certain person in office, whenever he said a certain thing, a stock can go crazy the next day.
We on.
And so with that, I tried to take advantage of it, yet stepping back to my job, which I mentioned, I didn't have the time to monitor it like I wanted to.
Right.
And there were days where I saw huge upswings and then days where it was some significant losses. And as I saw that roller coaster going, I said to myself, okay, this was fun for a little while. I made a little money, lost some. But when I think about investments, I want to be a little bit more in control of my destiny.
Got it.
And I saw real estate as something that could help me launch my entrepreneurial spirit, have some control over what it is exactly I want to do. And then when you look at history over a 15-year span, there's always a return in real estate.
It will mature.
Right?
It's always a safe play.
Yep.
And don't get me wrong, I'm not one to, shy away from, obviously investing in the stock market.
Absolutely.
Or cryptocurrency. But when you think about building wealth over time, real estate has been tried and true.
Yep.
There's no other asset asset class that is obviously less volatile, and it's going to provide you those safe returns, right?
And significant returns when you think about cash on cash returns over time.
Exactly.
It's true.
And not to mention, we talk about this all the time, Dom, the tax benefits.
It's true.
Depreciation against your income.
It's true.
The other opportunities that real estate provides, right? You're able to leverage against your asset class to do other things, right? We talk about HELOCs, lines of credit, to be able to double down and
that's huge.
Scale.
Yeah, that's huge. And so had this additional capacity during the pandemic. Wanted to be a little bit more in control of my destiny as opposed to what the market decided to do that day. And so I took all my money out the market, started looking at what was going on in my neighborhood, whereby I'm living in an area where there are a lot of, I would say, unused lots. A couple streets might be blighted, need some development, but there were some good things happening. There was still some new development. And so I thought, well, why not I, who live in the neighborhood, who look like the people who live in the neighborhood, try to come in to develop some of this land. Had that thought, got on the phone one day with my cousin, who's my partner, Carey Sr. He's based out of South Florida, former Dolphin player.
Shout out to Vern.
Yeah, shout out Big V. Called him, told him what I was thinking because we would share stock tips all the time.
Right.
So I'm like, hey, I'm done with the stock tips. I think I got a tip that we need to try this real estate market out. He said, okay, I hear you. I've dibbled and dabbled before in the past, not so much hands-on, but I'll fly out to Houston, see what you're talking about. It had to be about a week later, J. Carp. He was on the flight to H-Town.
Oh, man.
Well, I mean, and then again, we were one of the only cities that was still open, so it wasn't hard to get him here.
Right.
But he came down to Houston. He saw what was going on in the area, liked the opportunity, and within that weekend, we formed our business and started to put the steps in place to start developing.
Nice. So when it came down to identifying that area, what key factors did you have to consider? Did you and Vernon have to consider to make that deal go through?
Yeah. So the first part of the process in developing is site acquisition, right? So you have to identify a site and then go after getting the site. And so I was familiar with the neighborhood, so that was a benefit that we had. There were some other friends I had who were in development, people I was able to talk to from a network perspective, and they tried to get me to look at some different areas in which I understood why they thought those were good plays. Yet I saw what was happening in my neighborhood.
Right in front.
I saw what my equity was doing almost like month to month, right? I saw what the home prices were doing. And so me knowing the neighborhood, me seeing where I saw the market going, it really didn't feel like a big risk at the time at all.
So let's talk about that, because many individuals would have looked at what you've done and what you actually took action on at that point as overextending yourself, right? And literally, I've been down a road of not development, but doubling down, literally right in the same neighborhood, in my backyard, right? And you got to have a certain level of know-withal and confidence to know where the market is going, right? So what made you, or what understanding did you just have, just within yourself, just to make sure that, like, hey, this is gonna work, or hey, you just knew that, hey, if I could, grab a couple of these lots, the return was gonna be just like the actual purchase that I actually have now. You know what I'm saying? What was that confidence like?
Yeah, I would say, so it was, a term we hear in a lot of music we listen to, and the cultures we from, they call it jumping off the porch.
Right. Jumped off the porch, man.
So it was jumping off the porch in a sense of, I'm looking at homes for sale, websites that sell homes. So there's a popular site in Houston called HAR.com. I can't remember what the acronym stands for. It might be Houston Area Real Estate. But I would look at this site every day, put my zip code in, and I would see new homes that were popping up every day. And when I looked at what the prices of those homes were going for, I started again, okay, let me call a few of these lots that are for sale to owners, see what they want for the lots. So at the time, they were going for like $20 a square foot, 4,000 square foot lots. So we're talking $80,000 for a lot, right? When I looked at the price was $80,000 for a lot, I then started to try to factor in got a phone call coming through.
Let's get some money.
Once I factored in the prices of the lots, then I started to try to factor in, okay, we was to develop this, put a property on top of it, a structured property. What would that cost me to do? So from, again, having friends that have developed before and having a network of people that were in real estate existing, I tried to get a per square foot estimate.
Got it.
So I took that per square foot estimate on what it would cost to build, added that to the cost of the land, right? And then I thought, these are what these homes are selling for, and it was simple math at that point to see what a potential return could be. And so once I saw that it was there, I knew it could happen. And maybe some people were aware of what was going on in the market. Some people may not have been aware of what was going on in that area. The fact that it was in front of my face, I said, hey, we don't got time to waste. And so that's how we got started. By the time we made our first offer on our first lot, the price had jumped up to $22 a square foot.
Wow, man.
Right? And so it happened in such a quick time frame, $20 to $22 to $25 a square foot, just within a 6-month span.
Wow.
Because of what was happening during the pandemic.
And all it takes is to make that decision.
Exactly.
So let's get into that. So once you acquired that lot, right, what steps did you have to take? Like, from being a real estate investor, dealing with single family homes, he's a real estate investor dealing with single family and multifamily. We know the process that it takes from the time you acquire the property all the way through rehab and then completion. Now, I'm not familiar with the whole development side, right? I know you have a ton of insight on that. Can you share the process it takes from the time you acquire the land, from breaking ground all the way through that final sale? What does that look like?
Yeah, that's a great question, Jay Cart. Based off the premise of when we talk investments, okay? When you're flipping a home, you're going in to buy something, rehab it, get it back on the market.
Right.
You might be able to bypass certain things. Maybe it's certain permits or certain things that you got to wait on from the city to get by. When you're building from the ground up, you got to be ready for just all of these obstacles and the money sitting longer than really what you want it to sit.
Gotcha. That's the reality.
I mean, that's the reality of it, right? I mean, and you forgive me if I say this incorrectly, so please correct me. But if you're flipping, you might be able to get in and out of a property in 3 to 4 months. Is that true?
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. Well, building from the ground up during the pandemic, when the city was backlogged, you didn't have people want to come through and process the permits, everything fast. I mean, when we got the land, from when we got the plans from the architect to when they were submitted to the city and came out of the city, that was 6 months. Sheesh. So we haven't. No ground was broken.
6 months just to get the
man. And I'm so glad you brought up like the whole process with the architect, right? Because people just think that, hey, to be a developer, you could just get your contractors together and just break ground.
No, sir.
Like, no, the whole process is really like, and you could speak to it a lot better than me, but once you start talking to your architect, he has to go and basically submit permits to the city. That timeline is not controlled by you or him. It's controlled by the city, right?
Absolutely.
So with that being said, there is a lot of time that you may need a certain amount of carrying costs, or you just need to just factor that into what you're doing, right? Because like with multifamily, once you buy that building, it's stabilized. There's tenants in it, and you're returning a return a little bit quicker. And I think that's probably the more advantage on multifamily versus like development. But when you look at the advantages on the development side, there is nothing better than the equity multiple on the development side.
Yep. I agree with that. I mean, you hit it on the head. An additional layer and step that we went through where we started developing was within a flood zone. And so based off of that, every year in the city of Houston, there's new code coming out on how off the ground these properties need to be, rightfully so, right? Just to avoid flooding. And that adds an extra layer, an extra step when it goes through the city. So let's say if we were accounting for maybe 8 weeks for it to get through the city, 2 months for the whole thing, okay, when you go through, and this is on a normal process, let's say no pandemic, when you factor in having to go now through civil engineering, which is a different layer, right? Because it's in a flood zone, that's going to add on another 4 weeks. So call it 12 weeks is what we set out for, right? But that ended up doubling, just based off the backlog of what was in the city. And, you know, when something's not right, you got to resubmit it and try to get it back in front of the right way. Yeah, you got to get it back in front of the right
way into financing, right? There's so many ways to finance a deal within real estate. You can go hard money, we can go private money, we can go through the banks. Can you get into your process on how you secured funding to fund your development deals?
Yeah, I think you just covered a lot in looking at what are the options available, what's out there, what exists today. First, you kind of have an idea of what you need from a money perspective, and so kind of the way we targeted our business, and then maybe through this answer I can circle back about how we identified the contractor. But the way we targeted ours was we decided to buy our land with cash on hand. And so that was just through savings. Remember I told you I took all my investments out of the stock market, not all of them, but you know, some of the more risk ones and some of the more risk averse I left. But I took it out and we said, hey, this is how we're going to define this partnership. We're going to buy this land for cash. And then you guys brought up a point earlier about being able to leverage your assets. Yeah. We were able to leverage our assets to get the funding to actually do the construction build. And so we looked at in identifying the contractors, what were the various numbers, right? And just trying to understand how much we wanted to leverage on the assets as far as, you know, HELOC or refinance might look. And, you know, we found a contractor. We had one in mind already where he gave us a price. And by the time the plans came out the city, yesterday's price wasn't today's price, which I get.
That's how I be.
But we were able to identify another contractor. Whereas we were able to come to an agreement on a reasonable price to build. And based off when we got that number, we knew essentially how much we needed to get out. Okay. Right? And so we were able to leverage against assets to actually do the construction build.
Nice. So once you guys finally, you know, leverage the assets, secure the funding, now we're getting into the building, right? Breaking ground, all the permits and stuff, a pool, everything, all of that paperwork, the admin stuff is behind you. So as you all are in the building process, were there any like roadblocks or hiccups that you ran into?
Oh my God.
Let's talk about that.
I mean, you guys hear stories all the time, I'm sure, about contractors and dealing with contractors, and you got to think during the pandemic, you're going to get every excuse that exists.
Everyone, man.
Right? And I think a lot of it was real. I had to come to that conclusion that it was a different time, right? Resources were drawn. Yeah. Everyone was trying to get in and do it. Material prices might have been low at one point, then they began to skyrocket. So I get it. I would say the advice I would lend is some of the, based off the obstacles I faced, where if you're a developer and you're building, you have to treat this like it's your baby. Right. Right? And you can't expect nobody else to take care of your child the way you're going to take care of them. Yeah. Right? And so what I mean by that is staying diligent on top of the contractor, showing them that you're invested in it. I just so happened to live right across the street from one of the properties we built, so it wasn't much that was going to get by me. As far as,
he got the window every day.
It was during the pandemic. It was still a lot of work from home, and so it was plenty of lunch breaks and after work where I'm right in there with the contractors to see what's going on.
Yeah, most definitely.
Right, and so when I would have my calls with the superintendent of the site, it was no information I was unaware of. Yeah. And so just staying on top of it because, like I would say the biggest obstacle, it was with the second property we built. Once we finished it, right? Well, I said maybe we were 80% complete on it. Working with the contractor, we didn't have good security around the site. And we dealt with a situation whereas everyone sees this big, beautiful home going up. And hey, we saw what time that contractor left, and driving by, I'm pretty sure it may be empty. And it just so happened that although we were 80% complete, we had started to get it staged because we wanted this one to sell before it was done. And so we got it staged. As soon as we got it staged, about a week later, all the furniture walked away.
Oh my God.
Oh man. So as far as the obstacle, I mean, this actually came like towards the latter half, the end of the process. And it was just kind of amazing. Like, people walking away with furniture.
My goodness.
And this is obviously now an issue between you and the staging company.
Oh my God.
Right.
It was. And we were able to find an amicable agreement. And if you guys don't mind, I'll touch on it really quick.
Yeah, go ahead.
So what happened, okay, this furniture walks away, artwork walks away. Everything that was in the house just happened to walk away. And, the reason I said come into a process with the contractor on security is because I feel like maybe there were some things I could have done differently, and there were some things that they could have done better and differently, i.e. leaving the house with the lights on, windows wide open,
windows not locked,
just advertising, just advertising what's going on inside the house.
Right.
And this can happen in any area, no matter
1,000%.
where you're building. So okay, I take some ownership in that, contractor took some ownership in it, but the staging company, she advised that this had happened several times to her before, and the developers really never ponied up and paid.
Wow.
Because you got to think, I just paid her to stage it. Now I got to pay you to replace some stuff.
Right.
And so I told her, you know what? You send me an invoice to let me know the value of some of these items. And I'm not gonna say I agree with every amount she sent, but we were able to find a reasonable, common ground. And I paid her because I felt like it was the right thing to do. She wasn't anticipating me paying.
Wow.
So when I paid, guess what? She restaged the house and got her grandson as a home tender to come stay there until it's sold.
Man.
Wow.
So,
integrity, man.
Integrity, doing the right thing. And when she restaged it, he stayed there. He was ready to stay as long as he needed to until it sold. But it turns out he only had a 2-week stay.
The house was gone.
The house sold.
That's a blessing, though. That's a blessing in the madness, man. That's one of those things where you hear it all the time, where furniture goes missing, appliances may grow legs and walk away, and somehow the copper pipes end up out the wall.
Oh my God!
You hear it all too often. God!
And I think that's a big point. A lot of times in these projects, developers and flippers, we get into these projects and we might not have the right security, but also the right insurance, right? Appliances and all of these big ticket items that are in your property while you're trying to, obviously get the house sold and staged and completely sold, right? But is there a certain insurance policy that we should be really locking down when we're in these deals to make sure that we're covered in the event of these situations? You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Yeah, I would say definitely pay attention to how you structure your contract with who's ever doing the actual handwork and building the property. So the contractor, we had written within our contract that certain things they were responsible for if it was to go missing. Now, when it came to the appliances, we were beginners, but we had enough common sense to know not to put them appliances in there at least.
That's the last thing.
100% those were going to go in. So we were at 80%. The appliances were not in yet, but you bring up a great point about insurance. That's a route that we didn't take. We didn't know to take it. And after the property had some of the furniture taken out of it, what we had to do was immediately put an alarm system on it.
Right.
But guess what? There's no internet in the home.
Right.
And so it's like little things like that you have to think through, right? And so I found an alarm company that worked off of cellular base, didn't need to be connected to Wi-Fi, and I ordered it. It was self-installed. I had it in that night. I went and bought temporary blinds, because we hadn't put those up. So basically, it's common sense, really, is what it came down to. And sometimes we can get too comfortable, and so that was a mistake that I know I made.
I almost think it's kind of bringing back to the looking at developing versus like a full gut rehab. I almost think that is much easier. I mean, granted, you have different roadblocks, right? Different hurdles you got to go through, but I would assume that it's easier to develop from scratch than rehab something that was already built. What y'all think?
I'll let you go, Dom, and then I'll maybe provide a few thoughts on the development side.
So, I'm always multifamily.
Yeah.
And I'm always, as soon as I put my money down, it needs to be turning.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Literally the next month, I'm making cash flow.
For sure.
I am big on that, but I'm going to play devil's advocate because in the end all be all, the developer always wins. And if you think about it, man, when you're buying something and it's a distress, and even if it's not distress, maybe it's just a value add property, right? There are, throughout the lifetime of you owning that property, there are still going to be high ticket repairs that you are going to have to replace, right? And 9 times out of 10, the number that you got in on that deal doesn't always mean that nothing's gonna, need to be repaired, right? It just means, hey, you own that building, this is yours, and this is the cash flow, right? So when I look at development, I'm just like, the downside is, hey, how long obviously it's going to take you to turn a profit, right? And when I look at multifamily, yes, you're turning it quicker, but you also have to really incur all of those barriers with repairs, and you're also dealing with tenants in and out of your place as well. So I think it's ups and downs to both.
Right.
But I think a very diverse portfolio of all of it will make the most sense.
Yeah, no, facts. I can even speak from like full gut rehabs, man. Like you get in here in one of these vacant properties, you knock out the walls, drop some ceilings, and you realize you got some foundational problems. But you want to find that during the initial inspection. We put the offering, right? Like you get in there, take the ceilings out, so you can redo the electrical, but you realize at least 5 of the joists are rotted out. What do you do? That's an extra added cost. Or you realize that the house just was built in the 1920s and it just was built all the way wrong. So you got to move the steps, do all of those things. And I feel like it can get pretty expensive versus from a developer side, like you said, maybe some holding costs over a certain amount of time, but everything's from scratch.
Yeah. So I think that's probably the biggest con on the development side is the holding cost, right? As I stated, it took 6 months from when plans were submitted to come out of the city where we can actually break ground. And I'm not saying that that's the norm, but on the projects that we worked on. But the flip side of that is we know what we're gonna spend going in.
Absolutely.
You're definitely gonna calculate your carrying costs. You're gonna calculate some of the soft costs that's going to go in, that some unexpected expenses that you put 15, 20 aside for that. But outside of that, I pretty much have a set parameter on what's going to get spent. I'm probably not going to get hit with a surprise as I might if I was doing a rehab process and realize, like you said, a foundational issue, a joist issue, a roof issue that went unnoticed when the property was bought.
Oh, nice. So let me ask you this. I know you developed a plethora of properties in your developer career. Which project would you say you're the most proud of?
So, believe it or not, one of the things I learned from being in corporate America is if something is broke or something is not broken, don't break it. And then second to that, sometimes mimicking things that appear to be good or that come off good can be a good thing.
Okay.
So let me tell you what wasn't broken. The first design and the first set of plans we got for that house and how it was designed, it wasn't broken. People loved it. So guess what? I decided to mirror it, do it again.
That's smart. Yeah.
And in mirroring it, doing it again, one of the things I was just really proud of about this project was on the design piece. Think about when you're going to look at a home that maybe you want to move into, or think about if you're, hey, this is the dream home I would want my wife and I to have. Think about some of those small key features, right? Those niches. And what I had in mind was, how can I put the most amount of niches within this house that people want at the lowest cost, right? And I started with myself as a consumer or a home buyer. So when I walk in the house, you know what I love? High ceilings. So guess what? I knew this project had to have at least 8-foot ceilings on the first floor, right? Something else we know that sells homes or the bathrooms and the kitchens, right? And so of course I'm gonna splurge on that. Of course that's gonna look good. And then something I thought about that this was a late addition, a late add. We had already had the plan submitted. Was when I looked at the ceiling of the home. All the homes that were for sale in that area, they all just had white ceiling. They might have been pitched. They might have, they might have had a little slope to them.
Do anything different?
Nothing different. Just white ceilings with a ceiling fan hanging. So I had the idea, okay, we're building a modern farmhouse. Why not put shiplap on the ceiling, stain it, and let's cover that up with a few black beams.
That's fire.
And so it's kind of like, okay, this is a niche where you can't go in any of the 40 homes that are for sale in this neighborhood and find. But that one little item, which was $2,500 to do, it turned it up, made my home go before the home next door.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
So it's just finding those, when I think about proudest projects, it's finding those little small things that I felt like I added that were my flavor, that was in a special niche lane, right? High ceilings, shiplap, big bathtubs, small things.
Yeah.
Right? And how can I get the greatest return off of that?
I love it, man. I love it. My wife is into everything that you just talked about, right? Those oak beams in the ceiling, right? And those are the type of things that set you apart from your competition, right? But it comes at an added cost.
Yep.
So question to you is, based on you adding those, amazing features, right? It did make your property sell quicker.
Correct.
From a bottom line net standpoint versus your competition, did putting those extra features in that home put you in a better position financially on the exit versus the guy who just had the regular white ceilings, didn't really go above and beyond? Because a lot of people actually just say, like, hey, a lot of developers don't go above and beyond like that.
Right. So a lot of builder grade type stuff.
Speak to that. Did that put you in a better position, like sale price versus your competition?
Yeah. So I think you definitely have to be prudent financially on the additions you want to make, what that cost is, and what I was looking at were what the cost was. So going back to the $2,500 for the beams, right? Shiplap is just lumber. All they're doing is nailing lumber to the ceiling, and the beams, guess what? They weren't solid beams. They were hollow.
Wow.
And so the look is gone. There's no way you would know that it's not a timber or oak beam because it's painted. It's on the ceiling. You can't get up there and touch it. So when I look at what that cost was to do it, to get the same look, or the wooden garage. Now I could go buy a full wooden garage, right? Or I could put a regular garage slate door on there, and I can add the lumber to the outside.
Panel it. That's fire. Yeah.
Right. And so
I'm taking notes.
Absolutely. I got
so
it.
My house. Okay.
It's okay. How can I get the look I want? Right. That's still at a good quality, but it's not breaking the bank.
Yeah.
Yet at the same time, let's say the house next door was $400,000. And these are arbitrary numbers, these aren't real. But let's say that the house next door was $400,000. And let's say that a couple walks in, they really like the home, right? Let's say, like you may mention, a lot of builders just do cookie cutter, builder grade. Let's say that my house was right next door to that, and it was $415,000. But it had this ceiling that no other house in the neighborhood has, with this shiplap, with the beams. And let's say they come back and say, oh, I really like this one, and the wife tell the husband, I mean, nobody we know has a ceiling like this. I've seen it on Pinterest. I've seen it on television.
Yeah.
But it would be nice to have it. And the husband says, well, I don't know if it's worth another $15,000. Oh, well, let's make an offer for $412,000. Okay.
Right.
Because if me and the builder next door spent the same thing, if I just paid $2,500 extra to put that ceiling up versus him, but look at the profit I just made off of it.
Exactly.
Right?
Huge.
So it's just little things like that you have to look for. Where can I get the greatest return? Maybe for, I'm not going to say the lowest input cost, but for reasonable input cost.
Right.
Got it.
So would you say over the course of your projects that you've done throughout your developer career, were you able to kind of hone in on the ability to cut your costs each project?
Yeah, I think going more than one at a time was the way to do it. I mean, you have a lot of developers, guys, who've been in this for years. As I said, just got started during the pandemic. So from a great deal, still new in this. And in being new in it, I didn't know the contractor schedule and all the subs that I needed to hire, and had that network of subs. And so I had to go to a contractor who can give me something turnkey.
Gotcha.
And in going through that process and getting something that's turnkey, kind of ready to go, I was able to negotiate a better rate by doing more than one project at a time, because they can use that same crew, right? That same schedule, same people, everything to build those houses simultaneously.
Okay. Awesome, man. Awesome.
So yeah, we spoke about obviously finding the land, right? Spoke about finding the architect, finding the contractors, building the home, financing it, right? Now we're right at the end, right? We're getting ready to sell the home, and we've actually sold it. Let's talk about the agent piece on this. How did you find your real estate agent? Was there some conversations with you and your business partner on selling off market, or did you guys already have your agent ready to go?
Yeah, so there were some thoughts initially that went into it, because again, being small, starting off on our own, one side of it can say, okay, I want to go in with the lowest cost possible. So can I sell this off market? Can I get it done without having to pay out certain fees, commissions?
Right.
So the thought definitely crosses your mind. Yet where we landed was that given we were new, so same reason, given that we are new, maybe we should try to seek some protection. And you do get that from going through a broker and an agent with an established firm. And so I leaned on my network again, ended up utilizing one of my friends who I grew up in church with. She did an excellent job, I feel, once we got the property listed and was ready to sell. And she really did show a lot of value when it came down to the closing, because that's when it mattered, right? Because it's going to be things that the buyer wants, last minute items, intricate details that you got to get right, because we all want to end up at that table on a certain day closing it out.
Absolutely. That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So what's next, man? What's next for the development company? What do you have your sights on right now as far as new projects in the pipeline?
Yeah. So I can say that we wanted to do multifamily next. We wanted to, look at just building multiple townhomes. We had identified,
yes, sir.
We identified some great sites in Houston. It just so happened that every site that we identified was under contract.
Jesus. At least y'all know y'all headed in the right direction.
Exactly. Every site was under contract, and so there were a couple where the buyer decided to list us secondary, so something fall through. But my partner and I, we actually have a good balance, a good dynamic, I would say. He's very sharp, has a really strong financial acumen, and he has the mindset to go. We need to go and run and not miss the opportunity, and I love that. Me, I feel like sometimes I could be I lag a little bit because I'm really methodical. Not that I'm looking for the home run, yet I got to make sure I make a return. Very calculated, right? And I think we were able to find a good synergy, because some of these projects we wanted, we were maybe just a little too slow on, and we didn't get, yet we still got some money in the bank, and it worked out well, because he actually has a project that was brought to him in South Florida.
Nice.
Whereas we would look to do mixed use apartments and commercial in some zoned areas.
That's big time right there. That's big time. That's amazing, man.
Congratulations, man. I love to hear, obviously just forward thinking, you know what I'm saying? What's next, right?
Yep.
You didn't just build 2 homes and say, hey, I'm good and I'm successful, I'm done.
Yep.
It's always what's next. So, my question to you is, for people who, are just getting into development, or, they want to get into development, they want to do what you do, what would you do differently, or what advice would you give them to just start off?
So I might have moved slower than most, just because we put every piece together individually by ourselves. Every single piece, from we found the land by ourselves, found the architect by ourselves, found the contractor by ourselves, the agent. So we went through, and maybe that was a good process. I think what I would recommend maybe for some people who are looking to get started is, don't be afraid of a joint venture. Don't be afraid to tag on to someone who's already doing it, and to say, hey, I know you're already doing this, and the type of return you're going to get on it, you're going to expect a certain return from being hands-on. I want to invest with you. I don't expect to get the same return that you get, but I want to watch you. I want to see what you do.
Because that knowledge is priceless.
It's priceless. And once you learn that from someone that's experienced, you probably will be able to move a little faster than we did out the gate, because I did take that time to just learn every piece and every process.
And what I pretty much saying here, you know, if I could take it back, I would wish that I could, you know, do a joint venture with somebody before I got started, because you'll mitigate a lot of mistakes, right?
Absolutely.
I'm big on shortcutting success, right? Yep. So if I could go into a deal without having to deal with the bull crap of the L's I took that I spoke on a few episodes, and being burnt by contractors and being overzealous to get things done, if I was able to just do a JV with somebody at the get me, I'd probably save thousands.
Yep.
It'll probably add it up to an extra property,
yep.
honestly.
Yep.
So that's amazing, man. So I do have a question for you.
Mm-hmm.
To piggyback off on what Dom's question was towards people who are looking to get into real estate development, what are some myths that are out there surrounding real estate development that you could clear up for us? What are some myths that are out there surrounding real estate development that, you know, clear up?
Yeah, I would say, you know, off the top of my mind, a couple things, right? Everybody that say that they do real estate doesn't do real estate.
That's a bar right there, man. That's a bar.
Please do not get by Instagram.
That's a bar. Hey, that's gonna be my next caption, right?
Because when
we're gonna reel this,
and what I mean by that is, I'm a real estate developer, right? I've done it from the ground up, but does that mean I have the answer to everything? No. Right. Does that mean I have 20, 30 years of experience and things that someone who does have has? No, right. I don't have that, right? And so some people may come to me with questions that I advise them, hey, I'm not as versed in that topic. Right. You might need to go talk to this person, or you might want to have a call with this individual. But I feel like everyone doesn't take that approach. Some people might start guiding you down a wrong path.
Yeah. Quick path to destruction.
Exactly. And so I would say that's one thing out there, because I feel like it's a hot topic, it's a buzzword, and everybody want to be a part of it, and that's a great thing, right? But just be thoughtful in how you go about talking to land first, and then leveraging assets to actually start the building process. But again, if you, like you said, looking at a JV to help mitigate cost and risk, that's a good thing you can do. And then looking at different programs that banks may have available for small business owners, or like how we're looking at right now in South Florida, on the mixed use apartments and commercial. What programs does the state, county, city have as far as funds, tax credits, incentives that they can give back if you want to partner and do something with affordable housing? Yeah,
that's the one right there. A lot of times these local governments definitely have funding in place to kind of just give out to developers, real estate investors. That's amazing right there, man.
Yep. No, I think that was 100% key, because getting into real estate, man, if you're just starting, you're just trying to run so quick, man. Mm-hmm. You're trying to be so fast, right? And you're just like, I got this deal, and, you know, I can't pass up on it. And the beauty in this is, if you do pass up on a deal, and if it's one that you should have got, then you now know what that good deal looks like.
Exactly.
But bagging up to the funding piece, I think it's not talked about enough. You know, being resourceful and going to look at grants, going to see what type of programs are out there to fund your deal outside of putting 20% down,
right?
Or outside of going to this conventional bank, right? Who's just gonna stiff you, and they're not doing it unless you got 20%, right?
Right.
So looking beyond that, if you have the patience, you'll win big if you can kind of be resourceful and get funding for the down payment, and then, you know, maybe your terms are a little bit better on the back end. So I think that was a huge point, man. Huge point.
Agree.
So yeah, here at the Profit Zone, before we close, we're gonna take definitely a celebratory shot, man, because we definitely appreciate you, you know, just being here on the episode, and we in Houston, Texas, so, you know, we definitely gotta have a drink. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
But right before, you know, my last question to you. And it, you know, really not even a question. We just want you to share, man. So with that being said, on the Profit Zone, everybody who comes on the show, they end up telling us one of their most successful deals where they scored the most profit, or one of their most challenging opportunities, right? So, obviously this doesn't have to be anything, like a home run. This could be something that was, just a challenge for you. But just to end it all, we definitely just want to hear from you. Hey, what was one of those, opportunities or one of those wins for you?
Yeah, so I'll begin that answer, and I'll try to go under the umbrella of a win or a profit. Mm-hmm. So starting that, control what you can control. And the things that you can't control, don't stress about. I stressed so much in working with these contractors on when they would miss deadlines, because I would know people that were interested in the house.
And Jay Carp over there laughing.
I was stressed so much, but I only could control so much, right? And guess what happened over time? As I was dealing with these contractors, over time, what was out of my control is what was happening with the market.
Wow.
And we had it under contract at one point. We didn't get it finished in time. These people pulled out. Okay, that sucks, right? But by the time that the house was finished, the value of the home went up 15%.
Hey, can't beat it. You got
which one you want?
15% is a lot.
Yeah.
15% on a few $100,000. Man, that's a lot
of money. Exactly. But no, definitely these contracts definitely stress you out, bro. That's why.
And so what I mean by that is, okay, I only can control so much. Mm-hmm. Once you get to that level, you have to just kind of ride.
Yeah.
Right? And that's what I had to learn how to do. And when I was able to get to that level of just being able to ride, not stressing about it, making sure I was doing what I was needed to do, and staying on top of them, by the time that house sold, we made more than we thought we was gonna make. For sure.
That's a deal right there. Checkmate.
That's a bar right there, man. Yeah. Toast up.
Man. Hey, brother, much success to you in your continuous entrepreneurial endeavors. More properties, more deals, more wins, man. And thank you for coming today.
Appreciate that, bro.
No problem, man.
Salute. JC in the building, y'all.
H-time, baby.
Let's get it.
Hey, man. Make sure you tune in to us on YouTube at Profit Zone Pod. Make sure you follow us on Instagram at Profit Zone Pod. JC, where could our guests, our viewers find you at for more information?
Absolutely. We got cgsdevelopers.com. That is cgsdevelopers.com, Carey's Gold Standard. And on Instagram, you can find my page at JC So Successful.
Awesome, man. Again, JC, it was a pleasure having you today. And you're now tuned into the Profit Zone.
Yes, sir.